All right, we are live, I guess. I forgot to start my monitor here. We are live and ready to have a great day in the Lord. I hope you're having a great day in the Lord so far. And, you should. The Lord wants you to have a great day. And, it's just all good in Jesus, isn't it? And so today, from Believers Church in Abilene, Texas, I'm Pastor Danny Thompson, and we are going to talk about Israel to begin with, as soon as I can get my monitor going here. And I'm going to the wrong place, so don't need that. You think you have everything done, and then you don't. I'm going to talk about Israel because, well, Israel's in the news, isn't it? And so we are very much concerned with prophetic end-time events. And so, alright, there we go. Now you can stop watching me get everything going. We're very much concerned with the end-time events that are facing us, and if they were coming any faster, it'd really be scary. Or amazing, I guess would be the word. You're not scared if you're a believer. If you're not a believer and you know what is happening, why aren't you a believer now? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, I think we still got a couple of years, or this or that. Well, how long do you think we have, Danny? Oh, what was it, about, let's see, came to Abilene in 97, closing won't be too long, 2007, somewhere around 2000. I said we were in a 20-25 year time frame. Not in 20 or 25 years, but a 20 to 25 year time frame. And guess what? We're right in that time frame, aren't we? But that doesn't mean you have till 2017 or you have till 2022. What it means is any time. And things are happening so quickly. And some people say, well, when they start building the temple, they're just looking for a way to build it. I'm telling you, they've already got most of it put together. That's documented. Besides, the temple is not a prophecy for the rapture. The temple is a prophecy for the tribulation. You can't have the tribulation without the temple, as we're going to understand why in just a moment. But when you look at end-time events, everything always centers around Israel. Now, there can be peripheral events, and they go back to Israel, but everything centers around Israel. So when you have things happening, in Israel, concerning Israel, and you have the world working on the problem, just think, you have all the things going on in the world. You've got this terror group ISIS storming through the Middle East, trying to take the whole thing over. And the whole world is mostly concerned about Israel defending itself against a terrorist group, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip. Now, I understand the media is telling you all about the civilians, and many civilians have been killed, but why are the civilians killed? Because Israelis are bloodthirsty, crazed killers? No, because Hamas has their military installations buried within the civilian population. They put rocket launchers next to schools. They put rocket launchers and military operations in hospitals. If Israel is going to take on Hamas, they have no choice. They put rocket launchers and military installations in people's houses so that they have to blow up their houses. It's a media campaign, and if the people try to leave, they kill them, promise to wipe out their family. Not Israel. Hamas does this because they want the civilian shields. That's why Israel has said, we use our weapons to defend our people. They use their people to defend their weapons. This is all true. It is documented. The world knows it. But guess what? The world is on the side of Hamas. Alright? Now, what is all of this heading to? We're going to look at the scripture in just a minute, but let's look at what's happening right now. The last word I had, they're in a ceasefire. A ceasefire benefits who? How? Benefits Hamas. And, you know, our Secretary of State in the United States, John Kerry, is doing everything he can to benefit Hamas. Okay? And he is working to get more help. The United States has pledged money to Hamas. Everything is happening in the world community to help Hamas. Why? Because we want Israel contained. We don't like the idea of Israel wiping out Hamas and terror groups and all that, because that frees Israel up. Israel's problem is they care about world opinion. Instead of just trusting in God and saying, hey, we don't care if the rest of you want anything to do with this or not, and just going ahead and saying, we're going to do this. No, they've got to listen to the world. No other country would even talk about a ceasefire. But Israel will listen. Why? Because they want world approval. They think it's important that the world likes them. And it's not going to happen. The world does not like Israel. Okay, the ceasefire. What's been the problem? The media here has tried to always make it look like it's Israel. The problem, the ceasefire is all weighted to help Hamas. It is basically just Israel stopping so Hamas can do what it needs to do. Bring in humanitarian aid, and they make it sound good. Bring in humanitarian aid, take care of the dead, let the people go grocery shopping and all that. You don't stop a war because they're going to be bringing in arms and munitions and everything else. I mean, this is just ridiculous. But what happened? Kerry went to Israel, told them he was going to work on one plan, lied and completely changed it, ignored what Israel and Egypt were working on. Of course, the press really picked on Israel because Egypt didn't talk to the leaders of Hamas. Well, Kerry lied to Israel's administration, and then when he presented the plan, it was all weighted in favor of Hamas, so they rejected it. Then he goes to Europe and brings in, and the Hamas plan is basically Hamas and Turkey and Qatar, or Qatar, however you pronounce it. And Turkey does not have Israel's best interest at heart, neither does Qatar. So Kerry goes to Europe, which is what is important here. Okay, the rest is just lead up. Kerry goes to Europe, and all over Europe there are demonstrations, pro-Palestinian demonstrations happening. France is becoming very anti-Semitic against the Jews. England, of course, has a very large Muslim population. They had around 100,000 march this weekend, more than that the weekend before, against Israel. These European countries are feeling pressure to support the Palestinians because the media all over the world shows how poor the Palestinians are, shows how bad off they are, and they never report there has been billions upon billions upon billions of dollars pumped into these regions, but it's controlled by a terrorist group. Gaza is a terrorist area. And they divert the money, they keep the people poor, keep them hostage, etc. So how come Hamas wants, as part of the ceasefire, they want the Israeli borders open and the Egyptian borders open so they can get more help in, they can get arms and ammunition in. Europe knows this, but what is important about Europe? That is where the Antichrist will arise. You've got these people, there's not an Israeli ambassador there, there's not even a Hamas ambassador there, even though they have ties to Turkey, etc. It's just heads of, leaders in Europe discussing how to make peace between Israel and Hamas right now. Again, you've got ISIS going. You've got what should be concerning Israel, Europe right now is Russia and the Ukraine, but no, we've got to take care of this in Israel. Why? Because that's the focal point of the world. All right, Daniel chapter 10, verse 25. Therefore, Daniel 10:25, and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem until the coming of the anointed one, a prince, shall be 7 weeks of years and 62 weeks of years, and it shall be built again with city square and moat, but in troublous times. Alright. So, don't have time to go into this, but it's just giving you the times. And where it says weeks, it means years. From the time that Cyrus, I believe it was Cyrus, Xerxes, anyway, my mind sometimes goes blank on some of the history things, gave the decree to rebuild and restore Jerusalem, from that time to the time of the Messiah. Okay? Verse 26, after the 62 weeks of years shall the anointed one be cut off or killed, and shall have nothing and no one belonging to him and defending him. Okay, crucifixion of Jesus. And the people of the other prince who will come will destroy the city and sanctuary, and its end shall come with a flood, even to the end. There shall be war and desolations are decreed. Okay, the Romans came in, tore down the temple, etc. But it's also talking about what is to come. We don't have time to go into everything this morning. Verse 27, and he shall enter into a strong and firm covenant with the many for 1 week. Who? The prince, the other prince. Alright? And this is why we say it has to come out of Europe. Actually, it has to come out of the Roman Empire. Has to be a leader there, because it's talking about the prince, and the first time the other prince came in was the Romans to destroy Jerusalem. Excuse me, and they didn't even want, their leaders didn't even want them to destroy Jerusalem. Soldiers went crazy. Okay? So he shall enter into a strong and firm covenant with the many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and offering to cease for the remaining 3½ years, and upon the wing or pinnacle of abomination shall come one who makes desolate, until the full determined end is poured out upon the desolator, the Antichrist. Okay? And so, the one who makes you desolate. Now this parallels Matthew 24, which we go to all the time, verse 15. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, we just read that, the Antichrist, after making a treaty with Israel, in the middle of the treaty, that's when he goes crazy and starts saying he's God. He goes into the temple and actually sits down, excuse me, in the Holy of Holies, and says everybody's got to worship me. Jews revolt. Of course, he's got armies there because he's because of his treaty, he's caused them to lay down their arms. He says he's going to protect them. They have no defense. So they've got to run. Verse 16, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one go on the roof of his house, go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get his cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in the winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, the time of them is already predetermined, 3.5 years. This is the end of the tribulation, Jacob's trouble. Okay? If the time of those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. The elect here is not the church. The elect are the Jews. It's Israel. Understand, this is to Israel here. Again, end time is about Israel. Daniel's timetable has a gap in it. What is that gap? The church age. Why is that age not given? How come the length of it is not given? Because God is being as patient as He can be, as the Word says, not willing anyone to perish. Trying to let everybody come in that can come in, that will come in. Okay? So if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there He is, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I've told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you there He is out in the desert, do not go out, or here He is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Okay, and then you can read the rest. I'm running out of time for this segment. So Paul also, once Jesus said it, it didn't matter if Daniel said it or not. That's it. Okay, so this is what everything is heading up to. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to Him, we ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by some prophecy, report, or letter supposed to have come from us saying that the day of the Lord has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Alright? So all this is working toward that. And what is happening, even if things kind of quiet down, do not look for everything to totally quiet down. As Europe becomes stronger in this, it's never been a problem if the United States is involved in the negotiations, because we weren't part of the Roman Empire. As the United States turns to Europe to begin to pressure Israel, that's where the problem is. And I'm telling you, we are so close to this time when the man of sin, the Antichrist, rises up, and one of the first things on his agenda will be to bring peace to the Middle East. He'll say that, but all he cares about is peace in Israel. That will be his driving factor. So, that's what's happening. It's going to continue. There may be a lull. There will be an increase of fighting. Maybe another stop. Maybe a little bit. Iran right now, we're continuing negotiations with them. We are not going to try to stop them from getting a nuclear bomb, which nearly every analyst says is going to be this fall. This is going to be used to put more pressure on Israel to make peace. Alright? It's just all coming together. The end time is here, and it is setting up, not the tribulation, that's not here, but everything is setting up for that. So pay attention. Now, how does this concern the United States and us right now? Genesis 12:3, God promising to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. That's God's promise to Abraham and to his descendants. The United States is doing its best to put Israel down during this time. We are actively supporting Hamas during this. We're not coming out and officially doing it, but we are actively supporting Hamas as our national policy. That means God has to send repercussions upon this land, upon the U.S. Now, as we continue to do this, look for what? Well, for answers in kind. That means what? That means that the nations of the earth will begin to side with our enemies more and more and push us back to try to maintain us, and we will give in. So look for economic problems here. Look, because a economically challenged country is a weak country militarily. We've already got a destroyer in the White House who's tearing down everything he can. Look for just an increase in trouble. Look for things to just be worse than they are. Look for, and God always ties a loss of land, because the United States is the one that pressed for the Gaza Strip anyway. Look for more homes to be destroyed here in this country. Look for more trouble. You know, whether it's storms or fire or what, or sinkholes, look for us to lose property here. Because God is going to keep His word, is going to keep His covenant with Abraham. So that's a quick lesson update. What's going to happen? I don't know. I assume eventually Hamas and Israel will come, not they won't work it out, they'll come to an end of this hostility. Hamas will regroup and start again. And there we go. And to end this, eventually the man of sin will say, I've got a plan. Here's my plan. I'll protect you. I'll shut down Hamas and I'll control them. And then we can have peace. Alright? Something to that extent. Alright. So we've got a few minutes before we start the next segment. Make sure that we're going to be playing some music videos. If you want to watch the music videos, go down under your viewer, click the watch live button, and follow the prompts. In just a couple of minutes we'll be on with a couple of videos, some old ones, but some good songs. God bless you. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Amen. And pray for revival in America and our government. I tell you, we're killing ourselves.